All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. And today, things are getting really interesting.
Yeah.
We got to talk about Warren Buffett,
Oh, yeah?
the
Yeah.
Oracle of Omaha,
The big guy.
and tariffs,
Yes.
and really what all of this means for the markets. Because, this is not something we hear every day.
Right.
This is a guy who is famously apolitical.
Absolutely.
And for him to come out and make some of these comments that he has, comparing tariff benefits to something the tooth fairy pays for and calling tariffs an act of war.
Yeah.
That's some pretty strong language.
Yeah. And it's pretty unusual for him to come out, so strongly against something that's, this politically charged.
Right.
I think it really does say something about how he views this specific issue.
And for context,
Yeah.
the U.S. has imposed tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Chinese imports.
Right.
And now we've added Canada and Mexico to that. So,
Right.
It's a lot going on.
It is.
And just for those who maybe need a quick refresher, because I know everybody here follows this stuff very closely, but tariffs are basically taxes on imported goods.
Right.
The idea is that this makes domestic products more competitive.
Exactly. Yeah. So the intention is to protect those domestic industries and hopefully increase, local manufacturing as well.
Yeah, and that's sort of the argument that's being made by the current administration, that this is really going to revitalize American manufacturing.
Right.
But the other side of that is that
Yeah. The flip side.
it can mean higher prices for consumers.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's really where Buffett has consistently disagreed with the implementation of these tariffs. He's been arguing for, decades that they just ultimately end up harming both consumers and businesses.
Right, and this isn't the first time he said this.
No, not at all.
This is something that's been a very consistent view
Yeah, he's been saying this for a really long time.
from him for a really long time. So
Yeah.
it's, a classic economic debate.
It is.
You've got strong arguments on both sides. But what's really interesting is seeing how the market has reacted to all of this.
Absolutely. I mean, the markets really don't like uncertainty.
Right.
And that's really what these tariffs create. They disrupt these really complicated, global trade relationships. And it just makes investors really nervous.
Yeah, when these tariffs on Canada and Mexico were confirmed, the S&P 500 plunged 1.8%.
Oh,
Its worst day since December.
that's pretty significant.
Yeah, it's huge. And what's so interesting about that is that, even if you don't actively trade stocks,
Right.
this impacts everyone because it affects retirement funds, 401ks.
Everyone who's got investments in the market is going to feel these tremors.
Yeah, it's all connected.
It really is. It's a really good example of just how interconnected the global economy is these days.
And, in this context of all this turbulence, that Buffett has been making some pretty interesting moves of his own.
Yeah, he has.
He's been doing things that are pretty unusual for him, selling off stocks
Yeah, accumulating cash.
and accumulating cash.
Yeah, like a lot of it.
Yeah, we're talking about selling shares in things like Vanguard and State Street ETFs,
Right.
DaVita,
Yeah, he's selling some big names.
big names. And then on the other side of that, he's actually investing in 5 Japanese companies.
Wow, that's really interesting.
So it begs the question,
It really does.
what is going on? Is this a sign that he's getting bearish on the market?
Yeah, well, one interpretation is that he sees something that we don't.
Right.
That he's, maybe anticipating a recession or a further downturn in the U.S. market. So he's, selling these assets and just holding on to cash to preserve that capital until things improve.
So like batten down the hatches.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
wait wait out the
All
storm.
right out the storm. Yeah, okay. But there's another possible interpretation here too, right?
There is another possibility, and it's equally interesting.
Oh.
And that's the possibility that he's doing all of this strategically to prepare for succession.
Right.
I mean, he is getting older, and it could be that he's just trying to make his portfolio more liquid so that it's easier to convert, these assets into cash and make it easier for his successors to manage, when the time comes that he's no longer able to manage this massive portfolio himself.
Yeah, that's such an interesting angle that I hadn't even really considered, but it makes total sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say for sure what his motivations are.
Right.
It's definitely something to think about.
And the other piece of this that makes this even more intriguing is that he's declined to comment on his market outlook. He's been totally tight-lipped.
And even that silence, it
Yeah.
speaks volumes. I think
Yeah.
it really does reinforce the sense of caution that we've been discussing.
Yeah.
He's just not radiating that same sort of exuberance that we've seen in past bull markets.
So what does all of this mean for you, our listener?
Right.
Well, I think the big takeaway here is that even if you're not managing billions of dollars like Warren Buffett,
Right.
understanding these trends can help you make more informed financial decisions.
Absolutely. I mean, it's about connecting the dots between these global events and
Mhm.
market reactions and your own personal financial strategy.
Because this stuff really does impact
It
everyone.
does. Your personal finances don't exist in a vacuum.
Yeah.
They're influenced by this really complex web of economic and political factors.
And it makes you think,
It
if
does.
someone like Warren Buffett, with his track record, is proceeding with caution,
Right.
shouldn't we be paying attention?
Exactly.
How might these trade tensions that we're seeing unfold? How will this all play out in the long run? And how is it going to reshape the global economic landscape?
Yeah, it's a really interesting time, and I think there are a lot of big questions that we don't really have the answers to yet.
Yeah, a lot to ponder.
A lot to think about.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Keep learning, keep exploring, and we'll catch you next time.
See you later.
Bye.